Welcome back to the 2015 Brampton Focus All-Candidates Debate, coming to you from Brampton, Ontario. My name is Michael Lecharmont, and we will continue our questioning with Mr. Rick Drennan. Mr. Drennan, please.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. I know the guy beside me is pretty tough, right? But he's never gone 15.
He's a golden glove, Rick. Be very careful.
He has never gone 15 rounds with Hazel McCallion like I did in the election once. Anyway, what I learned from that was that the big city mayors are mad. Right? There's no funding formula for them from the federal government. They depend on property taxes to raise their money, and it just doesn't cut it because they have so many expenses. They have to build roads, et cetera, et cetera. 100 years ago, Canada was a rural country. Now it's reversed itself. We're an urban country. The feds have to get some money down to the provinces so they can get it down to the municipalities. How is the federal government going to do that if the NDP is in power?
Thanks, Rick. So I believe a couple of months ago, it was at the Federation of Municipalities meeting where cities raised this concern, and it was made loud and clear as to what their concerns are. The number one problem that cities have been raising is that there's no long-term sustainable funding for cities so that they could have budget planning ready for any infrastructure project, whether it's public transit, whether it's infrastructure construction. So the long-term plan for the NDP is that 20-year funding, $1.3 billion every year, so that cities that want to invest in public infrastructure know exactly how much money and when is coming to them. So this is a practical, doable solution for cities. And the other part of the plan is there's a lot of bureaucracy and red tape revolved around how cities get that money. So the NDP plan is, Martin Singh alluded to the gas tax, increasing the share to cities. And the plan for the NDP is to make sure that that money is going directly to cities and removing the competitive process between cities, and therefore making it easier for cities to plan their budgets.
Okay, somebody's mad at me because I keep asking the NDP. So for the Liberals?
I think municipalities have made it quite clear that one of their largest burdens is infrastructure and how to keep up with their growing population. This is one of the biggest concerns. I've talked to the mayor here in Brampton and Mississauga, and the reason that, day after day I've been hearing even at the door, people are concerned about their property tax going up. A large part of that has to do with the fact that the cities cannot keep up with their infrastructure demands. So the Liberal Party, through their $125 billion infrastructure infrastructure plan, will give money to the cities. And at the end of each year, all the money that has not been committed will be trickled down to the municipalities. So in our budget, we will create a consistent flow of money that goes to the cities every year. Linda Jeffrey, the mayor of Brampton, has come out in support of our plan because this is it's the largest burden they face. If they could see a steady flow coming in, they would be able to properly plan these cities for the future so that our children have the possibility of a university in our city, possibility of perhaps more businesses and jobs. When you can get and commute to the place that you're getting to, it makes life a lot easier. So I believe, through this plan, we can have endless amounts of possibilities in Brampton, and right now we're at a roadblock. The money that we'll also be providing will be provided to the cities to plan how they wish. So right now with the LRT, we're seeing a lot of issues because the money that's being given, there's some plans already in place, and the city's having a hard time figuring out where to put the LRT. So through our plan, we will allow the municipalities, we'll work with them with their vision for the city so that they can plan their cities accordingly.
Ruby Sahota of the Liberals, thank you. Let's go to Kyle Lacroix from the Green Party. Kyle?
I think it's great that the LRT was touched up on. This is something I'm involved in on a personal level. I would love to see transit. I want to stay as a transit user. I don't want to see myself taking a vehicle in a day and age when auto insurance rates are absolutely beyond reasonable cost. My brother's paying $500 a month as a student going into college. Is just ridiculous. Now to address back to the more specific of the questions asked, the Green Party would propose to have six $500 million super funds given out to municipalities. This is something that the municipalities would have a say in and how it is spent. Certain things that this would be spent on would be water and waste treatment, public infrastructure, which is definitely something that we need as a city in Brampton. We're really much falling behind when it comes to public transit. And I'm saying this as somebody who's personally been taking it since I was employed at the age of 14. It's been a struggle. It takes me to get across the city what would take 20 minutes on for somebody who drives a car. It ends up taking me an hour and a half, and that's unreasonable for a city that is expected to grow, as it was said so much in the short amount of period we have coming up in the next few years. Another area that's pushed that this would go through would be in promoting cycling in our paths. It would promote a waste cleanup, other social programs, so it could be allocated towards the needs of what would be for Brampton. One of them we've seen is childcare. So that's something that instead of just giving it, putting on a silver plate saying take it or leave it, instead municipalities would have more of a say in how they would spend this money. So we could look into the specifics that Brampton would need and how much it would cost, and then from that super funds that are being given to the municipality, they could use this to allocate how much they would need, and so that we have flexibility in how we answer the problems and given from the federal government.
Okay, Kyle, thank you. Final rebuttal is going to Adoma Patterson, please.
So there's no question that over the past decade, cities have been ignored. And I think the NDP approach is to make cities and provinces partners once again, to take the political piece out of giving money to one city over the other, as Harb said, so that we take the competitiveness out of it. They can plan long term. We can use the long form census to ensure that the fair share that Brampton and Peel Region needs gets to it, and that 1 cent from the gas tax, in addition to the investments in transit, will make a difference to the cities.
Okay. Thank you, Adoma. So this is what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to ask one more question, which I'm going to ask each of you just to spend 2 minutes on to answer, no rebuttal, and then we're going to ask each party for your 2-minute summation as we roll down, okay? The final question, which is another one from our audience, and thank you very much to all the people who attended. They're asking about helping new business. What will be done to help new business innovation and business-to-business startups? So again, I'm going to ask just 2 minutes from each, no rebuttal. And then after that, then we're going to ask you for your summation from each of your parties as we end the debate. Okay, let's start with the Green Party. What is the Green Party going to do to help business? How are you going to start business? How are you going to get business to business rejuvenated?
Okay, so one of the main things that we're going to do to help startup businesses is we have a green technology kickstart fund that will be used for companies that are innovating in clean and green technology. It will provide them with funds to be internationally competitive. And the reason this is important is, as some of you may know, the G7 countries have committed to ending the use of fossil fuel by the end of the century. Now, that means from here until there, we're going to have a steady ramp up of needing clean replacements for all fossil fuel-based technologies. And you may be familiar with a statement that Wayne Gretzky made, that he became good not by going where the puck is, but by going where the puck is going to be. And this is what we want to do economically. If we can get Canada creating, manufacturing these clean technologies, we can sell them to the world when the world needs them. When the world is trying to catch up and says, okay, we need a way to generate power cleanly, we need a way to transport ourselves cleanly, we'll be there and say, yeah, we've got it, buy it from us. And that will ensure long-term prosperity for us.
Thank you, Mr. Butcher from the Green Party. To the Liberals, please. Raj Grewal.
I think we need a transformation at the federal government and leadership. We're the only G7 country in a recession, and that speaks volumes of the Conservatives' economic policy over the past 10 years. So what the Liberal Party is going to do is to ensure that we kickstart the economy. I've mentioned this a lot of times. Justin Trudeau mentioned it a bunch of times last night in the debate, but it's really important to know that when you're in a recession, the government needs to spend money, and spending money on infrastructure is the best way to create jobs. We're going to reduce the small business tax rate from 11 to 9%. We're going to keep the corporate tax rate at 15%. And there's a reason to do that. If you increase corporate taxes on the highest and biggest corporations, they pack up and they move their business to lower tax holding countries. And even statistics show that if you increase the corporate tax rate, your revenues actually decline. I'm a corporate lawyer by profession. We set up companies all over the world to ensure that our clients have the best to ensure that they always will move their money to lower tax thresholds. That's not illegal. That's not tax manipulation. That's just playing by the rules that there is. Canada at a 15% corporate tax rate is competitive in the G7, and it's ensured that we have foreign direct investment. A perfect example is Burger King and Tim Hortons. The merger just happened last year, right? And Burger King decided to put their headquarters in Canada, creating hundreds of jobs because our climate is better, and we're the only party that's going to keep it at 15%. We're going to reduce small business tax bracket from 11 to 9%, and we're going to invest in Canada through our infrastructure fund, kickstarting the economy to ensure that we're competitive across the globe.
Raj Grewal from the Liberals, thank you very much. I'm going to go to Mr. Martin Singh from the NDP. How are you going to get jobs? What are you going to do?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, Michael, I think your question was about innovation and job creation.
Part of it, yeah, business to business, correct.
And so it's important that we speak about that because it hasn't been addressed thus far in the previous two answers. And so the Democratic Party has a direct plan for this. In particular, it's focused right here in Brampton and in the Peel area. We have a long-standing history of good quality manufacturing jobs in this area, and the New Democratic Party is going to put in an innovation tax credit. This innovation tax credit allows manufacturing companies to create new products that we can manufacture right here at home. And so what happens then is that the money comes here, investment, jobs get created here, and then there's a value enhancement when those products get shipped through export. This is a sharp distinction away from what the Conservative Party is doing. The Conservative Party, throughout their 10 years of government, has focused exclusively on oil and gas to the detriment of the nation, and they've taken their eye off the ball here. In addition to that, the Democratic Party has a particular focus for the auto sector. The reason for this is because, again, the auto sector has been neglected. If we look at last year alone, globally, $24 billion were invested in the auto sector around the world. Tragically, exactly $0 came here to Canada, never mind to this region. We know that this is important for us in our area. We have the Chrysler plant here in our city, among other auto plants. We have to make sure that we give our solid support to this particular sector of the economy. And that's exactly what the New Democratic Party is doing there, Michael. And so if you're interested in supporting a political party that has its eye on Brampton, has its eye on the manufacturing sector to make sure that good quality jobs are being created and that these jobs will be able to pay the money required to raise your families here, then the New Democratic Party is the party that you want to vote for.
Martin Singh, thank you very much. All right, as our debate starts to wind down, I'm going to ask each one of the tables to please present a closing statement, about 2 minutes, and tell the folks in Brampton why they should consider your party as the next leader in Ottawa. Please. And from the Greens.
Tonight we've had a chance to talk about a pretty decent spread of topics, but even so, you can only cover so much, and there are a number of things we haven't talked about tonight. So I'd encourage all of you, if you'd like to know our full set of policies, including ideas about free tuition, some innovative ideas to reduce carbon use by increasing energy efficiency, and also drug policy. Please visit greenparty.ca. You can see our full platform there. There's a short version. There's also a 180-page version. I know you won't read all of it, but you can get great information about whatever issue is important to you. And we have a fully costed budget there. I'd like to take the next 30 seconds to talk about the other parties here today. I appreciate a lot of information was brought out tonight, and I'd like to thank the other parties. Many of you spoke very passionately about issues that it was obvious were important to you, and I think a lot of information has been shared, and I hope everybody here learned a lot tonight. And now I'd like to spend the last minute talking about you folks. You've taken the time to come here tonight, obviously, because perhaps you wanted to support a party, but I think you also wanted to learn and to hear, and because you care about your community, and I think that's great. Where do we go from here? I think you've seen up here three parties who there was more, I believe, more agreement than disagreement up here. You heard everybody defending the CBC, the census, coming out against carding. There are a lot of shared values here, and I think that's very promising for us politically because we need to move this country away from division that we've had and back into unity. When you go home tonight, what can you do? If you've been inspired by anything you've heard tonight, talk to a friend, talk to somebody who wasn't here, investigate further, get involved with a campaign if you so choose, because it's your country and you decide what happens to it. So thank you for coming.
So on behalf of Brampton Focus, we'd like to thank the Green Party for coming tonight. Ms. Pauline Thornham, Sean Hutton, Saul Putcher, Kyle Lacroix, and Karthinka Gomana. Thank you very much to the Green Party. Nicely done. Final statement from the Liberals, please.
Me and my fellow Liberal colleagues are all proud long-term residents of Brampton. Over the years, we've seen through the Harper government a lot of decline in our community, economic loss, jobs loss. The youth here are suffering. We strongly believe in our plan. We will make a historic infrastructure plan that will help create jobs in our community. And that is the number one concern we've been hearing day after day is how do we create jobs? We'll also invest in our social systems. We'll invest in childcare. We'll invest in elderly housing, affordable housing, senior centers. We will also invest in our middle class. We are the only party that is actually going to take away this unfair tax advantage that the rich have been provided. So we're going to increase taxes on the 1% in order to make sure we focus on the middle class and lower. So we will cut taxes for the middle class so that those families have a little bit more, so that they can actually reinvest in our economy. When the middle class and lower has more, they're able to survive, they're able to invest in their communities, and through that we can create more jobs. In conclusion, I'd also let my colleagues.
I've been living in Brampton for the last 24 years. My family's story is so similar to all your family's story. I'm a son of a taxi cab driver and a factory worker who got to go to some of the best schools in this nation and achieve his very own Canadian dream. Over the last 10 years, the Harper decade, his policies have put that dream more difficult to reach. I'm running to ensure future generations have the same opportunity that I did.
I came to Canada nearly more than 20 years back, and at the time when I came, Liberal Party was in power, and Conservatives were gone at that time, and the country was running in a recession, great recession. People were doing 2 jobs; they were not even able to make up their bills, and ultimately, same position is today, and today we have to take it out. Justin Trudeau has given that slogan to bring that, move the economy forward.
Thank you. Brampton Focus would like to thank the Liberal Party of Canada for coming. Ruby Sahota, Mr. Ramesh Sangha, and Raj Griwal. Thank you so much for being here. And last but definitely not least, I'd like to give this to the NDP party, please, if you would give us your summation.
When we consider who we should be voting for, we want to make sure that we touch on both the national level, city level, and the local candidate level. So at the national level, the New Democratic Party has broad stroke policies that will benefit Canadians all across the country. In particular, our jobs plan, where we're going to reduce the small business tax 20%, because we recognize that almost 80% of the jobs in Canada are created by the small business sector. In particular, here for our region in Brampton, we know that the manufacturing sector is a huge part of our history, and we want to make sure that we bring that back and create jobs in that area. So we have special innovation tax credits to make sure that jobs are created there. On the social services side, we know that certainly we have, the most expensive car insurance in the country, but we also have very expensive childcare as well. Some of the most expensive childcare in the nation as well. So we want to bring in a $15 a day childcare plan for Bramptonians and right across Canada so that people can afford to actually go out to work. In addition to that, something that wasn't touched on here in the debate, the New Democratic Party is also wanting to make sure that old age security and the guaranteed income supplement are also boosted so that our seniors can live in the dignity that they deserve after working so hard and paying taxes for decades. At the more candidate level, what you're going to want to make sure that you look at when you go to vote, you want to make sure that the diversity of this city is reflected in the diversity of the candidates that are coming forward to represent you. Make sure that when you look at your candidates, they have the skill set, which we have here in the New Democratic Party, but make sure also, too, that the particular community that you come from has a voice at a table. Make sure that the concerns that they have will be shared through the candidates that they have running in your great city. Because if not, then you are at risk of your voice being not heard. We in the Democratic Party have candidates that come from all the various backgrounds to make sure each and every single citizen in Brampton is represented and has a voice at the table in this election 2015. Thank you.
Thank you. Brampton Focus would like to thank Martin Singh, Amarjeet Sangha, Rosemary Keenan, Harbaljit Kalan, and Adoma Patterson. Thank you so much for being here today. On behalf of Brampton Focus, we would like to thank all the candidates and you, the people of Brampton, for coming out and participating in this democratic exercise. Brampton Focus would also like to thank our esteemed panel who gave of their time and asked their questions for our benefits. Mr. Badar Shamim, Sophia Brown-Ramsey, Spider Jones, and the one and only Rick Drennan. Brampton Focus would also like to thank our media partners. We'd like to thank Rogers Television, Jake Deere, and Frank Bosenjak for putting this program on. Our Brampton Focus members, Don McLeod. We have Paul Vicente, Fazal Khan, Michael Jovi, Cashin Jofis, Carla Bailey, and Hardeep Karli Ra. And finally, October 19th is Election Day, and we encourage you to exercise your democratic right. Please vote. Have a say in shaping the future of Brampton. We encourage you to visit our website, bramptonfocus.ca, and watch Rogers TV Community Channel for the broadcast of this debate. My name is Michael A. Charbon. It's been a pleasure being your host, and we look forward to speaking to you again. Thank you very much for watching.